Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about stay signed in, right? So you might have seen that prompt or you might have been using it, but you might not be aware about how it works and how we can set it up and manage it. So I'm going to show you how we can manage it using conditional access policy, as well as there is one uh, feature or option that's simple and straightforward to simply enable and disable it, even if we don't manage it. And there are different scenarios and use cases why we wanted to manage it using conditional access policy. When we wanted to set it for a specific area, something like managed devices and managed devices. And if you wanted to make sure the same capability can also be used with devices which are managed, and those are the devices where we don't want users to go just enter the credentials and go next and click on sign in, because definitely that's going to put an additional layer on user actions on the sign in method or sign in area, right? On the page, the user has to go through those steps, and that really doesn't look good, right? So at one point, that's going to impacting the user experience as well, but it's totally depends on the how organization is going to put that policy or put that change across the organizations to make sure how people are going to use it, how people are going to interact to those changes, and how they are going to accept those changes, right? So there are pros and cons, right? And it also depends on how organization would want to manage their additional layer of security, right? Sometimes organization would not be agreeing to enable it or disable it because they wanted to make sure user should be going through the steps, and user should automatically or user should have also click on yes button only for that particular time. Let's say user is going to be using a particular application on personal device which is not managed by organization. That means user has to click on yes, and then only that action is going to happen, and then refresh token is going to store that on the browser application, and the session is going to be active for that particular policy or for particular duration, maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, or whatever it is, because we are going to set that in the policy, and then everything is going to be added there, right? So everything is going to be configured and set as per the policy, so that be it managed devices, be it unmanaged devices, and then it is going to be enforcing all of that control, right? Now, there are different ways to manage it. As I said, by using conditional access policies, we can create and manage it for managed and unmanaged devices. And before doing that, I would talk a bit about prerequisites. What are the prerequisites for this to uh, keep it active or show it on the prompts, and how we can use it, right? So the first prerequisite is it needs, or we as an organization or any organization, whoever is going to be looking it into and managing it, and they wanted to make sure this is the capability that they wanted to use, they should have Entra ID plan, at least free plan, as this is a free plan feature or capability. The second is Office 365 for the applications, right? So this is majorly into the Microsoft Office 365 applications, as well as Office 365 applications, right? So it includes all of that. And the major requirement here is we must have global administrator role in order to enable this and manage this capability. Otherwise, this is not going to allowing to the any other role to manage, enable, disable, or whatever the actions we want to take, right? So how does it work, right? If you ask this question to yourself or anyone, or maybe someone is asking from the team that how does this really works, right? So if any user clicks yes button on the screen when there is an option which says stay signed in, right? So that is the prompt actually. And what it is going to do when user clicks on yes button, the prompt says that once you click on it, then it is going to store the cookie is set to yes on that respective browser for particular period, as in it depends on how we are managing the device, right? Let's say we are managing this device where we wanted to set the persistent authentication for maybe continuous, and continuous as going to be always persistent. And if we set to never persistent, that means the browser is going to automatically revoke that session, and whatever the cookies are stored for that authentication or session, those cookies would automatically be flashed and removed. And whenever user is going to try to log in next time, user has to re-authenticate again, right? So this is what it's going to happen. So these are the two scenarios where user is trying to access on managed as well as unmanaged devices. Managed as in the system, the computer, which is fully managed by the company or organization domain by using either Intune or SCCM, right? And unmanaged is not purely managed at all. And even it could be the Entra registered device as well. So we can force out some of the policies and some of the configurations, but it is not going to be fully placed as managed and unmanaged comparison, right? And the next scenario would be when cookies are stored, those are the stored into the sessions on the keep me signed in or stay signed in session, right? So KIMC as in keep me signed in doesn't work on the locally stored cookies because those cookies are stored on the session itself, and those cookies are not stored locally on the browser stores or browser cookie store, right? And that is why those cookies would automatically be flush up. There won't be any cookies available once the browser is closed out, right? And then if the KIMC as in keep me signed in is not enabled and non-persistent browser is set and cookies are issued, so those cookies are available for last up to 24 hours or until the browser is being closed, right? So if the browser is closed and then respective session is also being closed, that means that's going to be automatically be revoked at all, right? So this way it is going to be taking out. Just a moment here. All right. So, yep, I was talking more onto the how does it work, right? So there are different scenarios and there are different considerations to this as well, right? So considerations includes how we are going to use it or how does this works behind the scenes, right? Let's say when there is an option or the prompt that says don't show this again, the checkbox functions separately from the stay signed in flow, right? The flow is different for that prompt or that particular actions, right? And the experience would be different, which is applicable on the authentication requirements configured within the tenant, as well as on the conditional access policy. And then the authentication configuration is going to prevent either on the keep me signed in flow, because that's going to be displayed on the screen for the users, right? And that way it is going to take the actions, right? So now I'm going to show you how we can enable this on the tenant wide first, and then I'm going to show you on the conditional access policies for both scenarios, either on the managed devices as well as on the unmanaged devices, because Definitely, if we wanted to make sure user has to re-authenticate on the any applications, because we are not managing the user's personal devices, that means we should automatically be ending out the sessions which are active for longer time, and there are chances of those cookies and those access tokens or the tokens can be stolen, and those can be replaced and get the access to the systems, right? So there are many other actions or many other things can happen, right? Because as an organization, they should take appropriate the measures beforehand doing or providing any access to the users, and we really don't know how users are going to use those systems, applications at all, right? So let me share my screen quickly and show you how we can enable it on the tenant wide, and then you can simply understand it easily. That's pretty straightforward, and there's nothing much on that side. All right, just a minute. Let me share the screen here. All right, so here you can see that I'm on the Entra portal. So I had already opened it up. I'll go back and I will show it again. So it's under the identity, and then here's the option, which is user settings. So from here, you will be landed to this page under the users and user settings. And then from here, you can see the same option under here, which says show keep user signed in, and show keep user signed in option is currently set to yes. If it is set to no, that means this prompt or this option is not going to be shown at all, right? So currently it is set to yes, and I'm going to show you the user experience as well. So once user logs in and what things happens, and then we would jump onto the conditional access policies on both scenarios, right? So let's go ahead. Okay. So I think I was logged in. Yeah, so I have logged in already to one of the user accounts here, but I'll just simply log it out and then show you from the beginning how it looks like, right? And then we can jump on to the step by step. So I'll just close it out and close this as well. Open up a fresh browser tab and then open up office.com, then sign in. Here we would be logging into one of the user account, right? So this is the one of the user account that I am going to log in, right? And we would talk through that option, right? So I'm going to enter the user credentials. And then sign in. Now it's going to ask me to match the number because I have already set up the two-factor authentication on this. So this is something which is needed here to authenticate myself, right? All right, so here you can see that we can see this prompt, which says stay signed in. Earlier, it was keep me signed in, but now Microsoft has rebranded it and given it as a separate or different option, which says stay signed in. Also, below that, you see a message which says do this to reduce the number of times you are asked to sign in. This means that there are two options, either yes or no. Yes or no, right? If you set to yes, that means it is not going to ask you to re-authenticate again. And this is going to store the cookies in the browser session, right? So as soon as you close the browser and reopens it again, maybe next time or after few minutes or hours, it is going to keep that session active and you would be logged into the browser or that respective application. And if you say no, that means this is going to keep that session active during this application and this browser is open, right? And once you close this browser, then automatically the cookie and the stored cookie or this browser session that's going to be automatically be vanished, and everything is going to be removed from there. And below that, you see, don't show this again, that means it is not going to show this prompt or this message at all next time, and it is going to hide because this does not have anything or action to take any of these options, either yes or no, because you already taken the right action. Let's say I wanted to set it to yes, and next time when I come back and try to open application, it does not ask or show this prompt at all. Instead, I would be able to log into the application, right? Because it has already stored the right set of cookies and whatever it needs to be get into the system. If I set to no, it's not going to show this prompt for that situation as well. And it is going to ask me to re-authenticate because that's the expected behavior here, as we have set to no, and it does not store the cookie upon the browser close or browser disconnect, right? So I'm going to click or check this box and then hit the X button. And now I'm logged in, right? So once I logged in as a user here, it is going to keep my session active until and unless I'm going to be using, or maybe just I'm logged in here and this browser is set to idle because I'm not going to use any of the applications, right? And I'm just logged in here. But until and unless I close this browser, it's going to end the session and cookies are stored there, right? So those cookies would automatically be flushed. So this is going to happen. Now, in which situations this is going to happen? So as I said, there are two situations on the managed device as well as unmanaged devices. And now how we are going to manage on both the scenarios. So I'm going to show you on both sides, right? So let's jump back to the Entra portal here. And on this portal, I have already created two different conditional access policies. And I'm going to show you both of those quickly. So let's say this is one of the first policy for unmanaged devices, and this is for managed devices, right? And these both policies are acting as per the controls that we have set up. Let's take an example for managed devices section first. Let's say we have hundreds and thousands of managed devices, right? We wanted to improve on user experience, plus user should be able to access all set of applications on the managed devices, as we have already set the right set of security and policy controls on the browsers as well as the whole devices, right? And we wanted to make sure users are able to access those applications without any hesitation, without any issues at all, because they might be saying, or they might be entering into the different steps by entering email address and then password and then two-factor authentication, right? And when we have set up multi-factor authentication as well as single sign-on on different applications, even that's also additional prompt on multiple layers when we don't have really the device managed at all. So to reduce all those steps, this is going to be something which is going to improve on user experience and then help users to get into the systems without delaying into the login and accessing the applications and improve on user experience, right? So starting with setting or assigning this policy to a number of users. And also I have targeted all the cloud applications because that's the requirement for this policy to set up, right? For managed as well as unmanaged devices. Even we can select specific selected resources and then target it. Let's say I wanted to target specific applications. So I can simply maybe select one application from here, say ServiceNow, and I would just add it. So this is going to be the resource where I wanted to target this application or this policy. For network, I'm not going to add or change anything, but for conditions, definitely we can go ahead and set the client applications and filter for devices. As I said, this policy is targeting all the managed devices, and that is why I have set and added filters here. So I'm going to show what are those filters. So filters includes here with device ownership equals the company, as those are the devices. And even we can set the trust type equals to Entra joined hybrid joined and Entra ID or Entra registered. So this was something which is set for registered devices if we don't wanted to, or if we wanted to target those devices as well. So definitely we have to create separate filter on each of these one. So for now, I'm going to select Entra joined, and also I can add similar filters for hybrid ones as well. Let's say hybrid, right? Because we wanted to control and cover both of those devices, right? So this is on the managed devices side. And once we are good here on the access control grant section, I have enforced the MFA definitely, and then the right set of options. So that's going to be the correct one, because even if we are managing the device and application, but still we wanted to make sure user has to authenticate with two-factor authentication as a second layer of security, and it's a part of zero trust principle, right? And we cannot trust anyone, and we should always verify their each and every request, right? So that's why we should enforce the MFA always. And on the session side, I have configured the persistent browser session on always persistence. Here you can see it says always, and here it gives an warning saying that browser persistent session only works with the correctly when all the cloud apps are selected, right? So this properly works with all the cloud apps, as I had selected only one app as a target resource from here, and that is why it has given a prompt. And it is recommending us to select all the cloud applications or cloud resources instead of selecting a particular application, right? And this is going to enforce it to all the applications across the organization, right? And once we are good here, just save this policy, right? All right, so that's saved. Let's go back and policies, and uh, it was for managed devices. So this is the managed devices policy, right? Now this policy is set for managed devices and on the all the applications on the browsers, right? Because we wanted to make sure improve on user experience, as well as we wanted to take the right set of actions, right? We even user is trying to log in, and user has to, or user doesn't have to re-authenticate every time, be it whichever its application it is, right? And this is going to improve on user experience and keep the sessions and cookies active and set appropriately, right? On the other hand, it is going to be completely opposite to the unmanaged devices from the managed devices, where we would have to set all the applications or all the resources as a target resources. And on the condition side, I have put the similar conditions on the devices side, because we are not targeting everything. All right. And here I have excluded these devices or these device types, which includes the device ownership as company, as well as managed joint or Entra joint or hybrid joint. That means these are the exclusions in this policy. Now, this policy is going to check whether the device is part of any of these three categories here. Then it is going to enforce automatically these whole policy configurations. And if device is going to be, or all of these categories were set to under include, that means it is going to include or target only these three categories and not the unmanaged devices at all. Now, we really don't know which device it is going to be when user is going to access any particular applications from any unmanaged devices. Maybe user is accessing any applications from a public resource. Maybe there is a system or application or the particular device which is publicly available for anyone to access, let's say on the airport or on the uh, railway station or metro station, something like that, and people are simply going ahead and entering the credentials and logging into it, right? So now we wanted to make sure those sessions are automatically be revoked, and those sessions should not be active at all as soon as user is logged in, and user has to close the browser. Once the browser is closed, cookies are flushed and removed from the browser session at all, and it's going to be clearing it out so that browser session is also closed and everything is closed. So there is no footprints at all for the bad actors, right? So this is going to be saving a lot of time, as well as on the security side, we are not keeping any footprints in the backend, because every organization has to keep their applications and systems and everything safe and secure, right? Even if user is trying to access any applications on the any of those public devices, kind of maybe cyber cafe or on any network, be it Wi-Fi or public Wi-Fi, but still we wanted to make sure those sessions are not easy or replayable, right? So this way we are going to exclude those managed devices and target only any devices which is not really managed by our organization and organization systems, right? So this is how it is configured over here. And even we can set the client applications. This is also pretty much very good capability or very good uh, browser modern authentication filters, which we can configure on the browser side and set it to, so that we don't wanted to let users to use the legacy authentication or legacy applications at all, right? And on the grant, I have enforced two-factor authentication here as well, because we wanted to make sure user has to re-authenticate each and every time, right? And user should be making sure they are going to use it appropriately and not a kind of misuse. And here is the real magic, which we have configured on the session side, where we are going to put sign-in frequency on 4 hours. So that's too much when users are accessing any company resources on public. So instead of 4, we can set it to 1 hours, or maybe we can set maximum a kind of day when users are owning the devices, right? Because if user says that I'm owning this device and I wanted to use this application without interrupting my work or any sessions, then we can make a kind of a day or two. And if we wanted to limit it down, we can set it to at 1 hour. And then after 1 hour, user has to re-authenticate, and then user has to get into the system and get their work done. On the other side, there's a persistent browser session. There are two options, as I said, always persistent and never persistent. So when it is always persistent option, which I showed you on the managed devices side, right here. So this is going to always keep the session active and cookies available on the browser sessions as soon as user reopens, and keep the session active and use the session and applications. Is going to always be open and available for users. But opposite to that is going to be never persistent. So that means this cookies, whatever the cookies are stored on the browser, those are not going to be available for users, right? Because as soon as the user sign-in session is completed, or user has to re-authenticate again after that particular hour, and even before that also, even user has closed the browser, this is going to clear out all the session as well as cookies, and then user has to regain the access and then get into the system. So this is what the never persistent is going to do, right? So we have set up all of those, and once we are good here, we should simply go ahead and save this one. All right, so let's go back here, find that policy, go to policies, and it was for unmanaged one. So, all right, so both of these policies are created, and we saw the actions and steps and whatever the configurations we have done, right? So now this is the whole configurations that to manage the user experience on managed devices and unmanaged devices, right? And how it is going to work and how it's going to improve on user experience and applications and system access, right? So hope you will like it. Hope you will learn something new and understand it. And I would be happy to answer any questions, anything that you might have. And let me know if anything you have configured, you have set up, you might have seen such experiences, any issues, and anything apart from this, or you might have done something different as well, right? So let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I would appreciate all those discussions, right? So yeah, that's all for this video, and hope you will share this video with your friends, colleagues, and within your community, right? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends as well. So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.